So chiming in there to join in my aghastness over the behavior of Georgia Dow, Micah Sargent. How are you, Micah?
I'm doing all right. It's a good day, but I am a little jealous. I'd rather be trying to get warm than actually what's going on with me right now, which is about dying from heat in the good old state of Missouri, where we've
Oh.
got both. Like I think today there's a heat warning from the Weather Channel, and then there's also a bunch of humidity.
But
So,
that's you, Micah. It's because you're hot. You're putting
ow!
yourself in flame.
No, I wish that was the case, but I'm just sweating because it's so bad here. Ugh.
Uh, and speaking of hot, thanks to the new Instagram Stories feature, I now have seen Lori Gill rocking out. How are you, Lori Gill?
Very good, thank you. It's not hot here. We actually had a heat wave in the Sacramento area last week, but this week it's been really nice, so I'm doing good.
So mean, so cruel. All right.
Oh,
Well,
it's gorgeous right now.
as Micah suns himself, Lori will be turning on the space heater. Okay. All right, so we got a bunch of news to get to. First of all, we have some iMore news. We've once again, earlier this year, we talked about putting the more in iMore, and back then we meant that we were going to try to expand our coverage because really the iPhone is now a platform. We built it up. Everything has been done. We meaning everyone in the community, and now we're building things on top of it, and that includes things like fitness trackers and connected lights. And social networking apps. All these things work off of the iPhone, but they're much bigger than just the iPhone. So we've been, Micah did a wonderful Snapchat Ultimate Guide for us. And the Kathy and a bunch of people did a really good Fitbit guide for us, Mark and Mike and Luke and all of them, really, really great. But as we've been growing, I mean, we've experimented with things. We have Michael Gartenberg with us now, and we've been doing what we called iMore Select, which was more analysis. We want to get into, we want to get away from the rumors and more into the analysis. And we also had Micah spearheading iMore Pop for us, which was an attempt to cover a lot of the things that we weren't covering and serve audiences we weren't serving. For example, Kimoji, super popular, but not something we traditionally covered.
Or the rock alarm clock.
The rock, totally. But we realized that that still wasn't in alignment. Like we weren't serving the needs of our audience. And the biggest thing that we saw was Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go is the biggest launch maybe ever, certainly of the last few years. It's bigger than an iPhone launch, bigger than a Samsung launch. It's been bigger than anything. It's just millions and millions of people on iOS and Android all coming together and playing the same app at the same time. And it's a phenomena, but it really, really upset a lot of our core readers. Now, to go back a little bit, when we started covering the iPad, people got really upset at us too, because back then we were called the iPhone blog, and why would you write about the iPad? It's not an iPhone. And now it's the same thing. Why are you writing about Snapchat? There's too much Snapchat. You guys, you're just writing about. 99% of our audience thought we did not enough Snapchat coverage, but the 1%, the people who've been with us from the beginning, the vocal few, the early adopters, the enthusiasts like us, were like, why? Why are you tormenting me? So Serenity and I were talking for a while about stopping to do the news. And by news, I don't mean writing about what's happening. We'll always do that. But I meant like the reblogging. Like you take someone else's story, you put a link to it, and you just put up a little post about it. And it just seemed so empty to us. And then I went to visit my boss, Kevin Michaluk, our chief media officer, and before I had a chance to pitch it, he said, why don't we stop doing news on iMore? Which was awesome because I thought it was going to be a really hard sell because back in the day people were just like we're old school tech bloggers, you can't let a single story pass you by. But he was super cool about it, and we started thinking that we basically have two really different audiences. We have the people who are the early adopters, the tech enthusiasts, and they just want to know about the latest and the greatest, and they have zero interest in Pokemon Go or basic help articles or a lot of the app guides we do. I mean, they just know, they've been there, they know that, and they have 3 or 4 worn versions of the t-shirts sitting in their drawers. But we have this massive new audience of people who, all of our brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and friends and colleagues who are brand new to smartphones, and they don't care about them as computers. Either they just use Facebook because Facebook is the internet, or they just play Pokemon Go because all their friends are playing it, and they really do want help with all the basics. And that's such a bigger audience because there's literally 9 or 10 or 20 of them for every one of us. And they're the biggest part of the biggest audience we have on iMore right now. 99% plus of the people who read iMore every day are not the tech enthusiasts anymore. And it's hard to see that because our comments are still filled by the tech enthusiasts saying, why are you doing this to us? Because the new audience really doesn't comment that much. In fact, they look at the comments and they go, why are you guys yelling at each other and complaining so much? I just want to use the mail app. So we've had to think really hard about how to solve this. And the idea we're working towards, and it's going to take us a long time to get there, is to sort of separate things out so that iMore, basic iMore, is going to have a lot of mainstream coverage. And we have wonderful people. You know, we've expanded our team. We have wonderful people who are writing all these ultimate guides and buyer's guides and things that are super helpful. Wirecutter is not a really good analogy because we're not doing stuff in that style, but it's an example of a site where you don't really go to it for news, or you don't really go to it for opinion editorial. You go there because they're going to help you use and get the most out of your stuff. And that's always been iMore's core mission, is to help everyone get more out of all the Apple devices in their lives, to live better lives with their Apple devices. But we don't want to forget the core audience because it's us. Like, that's the stuff we're interested in. It's the stuff we love. And we're lucky to have people like Serenity Caldwell and Michael Gartenberg, who are the best in the business at analyzing this stuff. So we're going to find a way, like a little oasis, a little haven, where we can have that, you know, old school sort of tech bloggy opinion analysis, all that kind of stuff, living in its own thing. So if that's what you want, you can just go there and you'll have it. But you know, everyone else will just get all the help content they want. So Georgia, I know like you were really helpful in us thinking through all this stuff, and it's going to be a big transition. But that's basically the idea.
Yeah, even when I think that people get upset when we make changes or when stuff isn't the way that they wanted it to be, because you get so comfortable in a certain ecosphere. So even if it is really everyone's going to be much happier in the long stream, there'll probably be some people that'll be like, oh no, why isn't this, no matter which way that you pull it. But at least then, if you want a certain set of content, you can get the content that you want without seeing the content that you don't, because it's just such a different core of audience, the people that are going to be wanting to do the things that are trendy and new and find out and learn about it, versus people that are kind of old school tech and just want to get the analysis in depth, what's going to be happening, why is it there, what can we discuss about it. And so I think it's a great idea just to separate out both, and you can even go to both. If you want both, you can go to both. That's fine. It does not preclude one from the other. But there probably will be a transition of people being still a little bit upset no matter what you do.
Our Android app, because we're canceling this, one of the things we're doing is we're focusing more. So we're going to be canceling the Android app for iMore and making a new iOS app for iMore. And they're some of the people who use that app are super upset, and I get it. But when you look at the numbers, we have on average 10 million readers a month, and about 1,000 to 2,000 of them use the Android app for iMore. And and
all 1,000 to 2,000 of them commented when you said that.
No, like 3 or 4 of them did, but because that's because people, those are the kind of people who are more apt to comment on an article. It seems, and Michael, like we've struggled with this for years. It's the online community skews what we think of as normal, but it really is a much more diverse audience.
Yeah, you mean in whole, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think I kind of had a bit of a tweet storm after the whole Pokemon Go thing happened, where we had so many people upset, because it's frustrating to whenever you consider the fact that there are so many people in this world and so many different people who need different things, and when you can even just look at the raw data of the situation and say, like, I can point to all of these things and say this is how this is working, and 99% of the people are asking for this. And yes, you might be the 1% that's super, super vocal, but please understand that there's this whole other group out there. And I ended up saying that tech elitism was very tiring, and I do like that's still the case today, because there are people in this little area of the internet who are super into technology who have trouble with empathy and can't put themselves in other people's shoes in this situation and say, oh, well, maybe there is someone out there who does need to learn how to use the Mail app, or doesn't know that if you hold down the A key on iMessage that you can get to a bunch of other characters, or what have you. Like, there are so many tips and things that people don't know about, but, oh, why are you doing a thing about that? This is a clickbait story. No, actually, there are a lot of people who need help with this.
Yeah, clickbait actually means to bait a click. So often it means bait and switch. So it's like saying, you won't believe what happened when I put this diamond into a laser beam, and the actual story is about someone buying milk.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know what clickbait actually means, and they end up just attributing that word to everything that is not exactly what they want.
Or it's SEO, which all SEO means these days is make a story that people actually want to read, because that's what Google rewards.
Right. Which, by the way, I just want to note, after our article went out about the changes happening, there have been some different people kind of talking about it on podcasts and things like that. And one of the things that was brought up on a show from friends of ours at the Relay Network is like when even Federico Viticci goes to search for something that he needs to know about iOS. iMore is almost always at the top of those Google searches. Like people are looking for this and linking to this and trying to get to this, and we're right there at the top helping people. So I like, regardless of the few but incredibly vocal and seemingly seemingly intense comments in the negative, I'm really excited and happy because there are people out there that are getting helped by the stuff that we're doing. So awesome.
Well, I think that even the people though that have like really vocal negative, it's because they really care so much about iMore. We really are about community, and so a lot of our core audience are people that are very tech knowledgeable. iMore used to be even like more into the ins and outs of the inside of your phone, and so that switch can be really hard, especially when it's something that's exceptionally popular and really trendy. Like when you have an influx such as Pokemon Go or Snapchat, and you're not part of that influx, you're not part of the group of people doing that, seeing it every single day can be exceptionally tiresome, especially when you go back to your home-based website. Everyone has a few websites that they go to, and if iMore is your home base and suddenly it's influxed with this piece that you're not interested in, you don't care, and 1,000 stories about it, I do understand that people can be frustrated. I know, Renee, you put out a Pokemon Go list link if you wanted.
Yeah, RSS feed, Pokemon No.
I love
How about
that.
Pokemon No?
So
Georgia likes
good.
Pokemon. Derek does not.
Because people, like, whenever something's really popular, one, everyone's going to write a million stories of it, and then we become tired of constantly being forced to look, see, and listen to that. And so I fully get why some people would be
upset. It doesn't meet their
upset.
expectations.
It's if you're not part of it, you're not going to deal with it. But when something's really popular, as we kind of have to do, we have to cover that as
They were
well.
forced to feature it on the App Store. I mean, it's
I
one
know.
of the worst written apps of all time, and it was so popular they were forced to feature it on the App Store.
It's just one of those things. So it's really hard. I love, Renee, that you always talk about the background of the site instead of just like, we really do care to make everyone happy as much as we can. That's impossible, but we do try to do what we can. And
You try to piss them off all exactly the same amount.
You don't. You try so.
Equally infuriated.
Renee is so good with trying to make sure that people that come to the site will feel comfortable and get something that they want. But yeah, there's going to be, Snapchat and Pokemon Go are going to be stories until people don't care about it. And I think how-tos are so important. I always have clients that come in and they ask me about different things with technology, and there's always going to be a how-to, and yes, it's going to be us that'll cover. And so a lot of my clients that are scared of technology, or that I've gotten 1,000 questions about Pokemon Go, because of how many stories everyone's scared and or talking about it even if they don't know anything. So we have to kind of cover that as well. But I get why people would be upset because they care so much about iMore, which is lovely.
So Lori, I mean, you're a recent addition to iMore, and you came in mostly to write how-tos. So this is almost a flip perspective from the one that you started with.
Yeah, so I was actually just thinking, we started off the year with this big, we're making all these changes and we're going to be doing it this way, and we got a lot of our core readers complaining, and I think that the fact that we're making changes now is proof that we are listening to our readers. We do care about our readers. We have had an influx of Snapchat and Pokemon Go articles, and then we heard our readers say they don't want that, and now we're making changes to help them and help readers that are new to our website. So I think that our part due, our Mona 4.5, is a great idea because, this is an ever-changing situation for us, and there might be another change, 6 months from now, once we start to figure out what our core readers want, what our new readers want, and I'm excited about where we're going with this. It's big changes, and I think it's all good changes. It's going to help our core readers, and it's going to help bring a new audience to us that will hopefully become a core audience at some point.
So
Yeah,
that's
I
good
mean,
stuff.
there was Mike has said it before. There was a great discussion from Federico and Mike Hurley and Stephen Hackett, three people who speak three totally different languages, about some of the changes. Jason Snell gave us a nice thumbs up, which was great, and it really is important to us. The only constant is change. Just look at the media landscape and see all the sites that have either gone away, folded, downsized, merged. It's really, really hard to sustain a business, and we remain like we don't have any VC funding. We were started by one guy, still run it, still own it and operate it privately. We have ever growing staff, and we want to make sure they're all comfortable and can concentrate on writing. So it's a really big challenge, and we have to make sure that we're diversified. And a lot of people were kind of confused as to what it means, and that's partially my fault because I fell in love. I did the worst thing in writing. I didn't kill my darlings. I fell in love with the line "No More News" because to me it was like an homage to Brian Michael Bendis in House of M with Scarlet Witch when she said "No more mutants," and just made them all disappear. What I meant by "No more news" is
That's harsh, Renee.
so what I meant was a couple of years ago. We started this thing called Newsroom, and the idea was that we'd have a group of people dedicated to writing just about news because a lot of us were busy doing like reviews and how-tos and best-ofs and all those kinds of things. And they were a great team, but they just spent most of the time reblogging, and we decided at iMore that really didn't have that much value for us. We didn't want to look like every other Mac site. We didn't want to be able to go there and just see a list of everybody else's news. We wanted to concentrate on our own content, and I think people meant they would never see news again. I tried to say you're still going to be able to open iMore and see everything that's happening in the community. It's just going to be done differently, but that didn't come through clearly enough. So, for example, Apple, well, I'll get to that in a second, but we're going to if you want to find out about the latest apps, Joe Keller is doing a constantly updated best new apps article. It gets bumped once a week, but he's updating it all the time. When a great new app comes out, you just have one page to go to. You don't have to sort through 19,000 one new page a week or 19,000 pages. Just one page. If you love that, bookmark it. Go there every day. It'll always have the best stuff. Same with iTunes. We're going to be doing that with Netflix, with Amazon Prime. When a new iOS update comes out, we're going to note it for you, but we're going to always have instructions on how to update, how to download it, because maybe you did get on at Beta 1, but maybe, unlike me, you were smart enough to wait till Beta 4, and now you want to install it, and just knowing that it's out isn't enough. You want to know, okay, it's out, this is the one for me, I'm getting on it, and right underneath that notice that it's out, there's all the instructions you need to get started with it. So we're doing less, but we're trying to do it better, and that was really, I think, the bottom line of
So you can still go to iMore and get the latest things that are significant and happening in Apple.
Yes, not everything. Like we're letting some of the stuff that we think is just filler go us, and that's just our decision. We don't mean anything bad about all that news, and we'll get to it. We'll do link lists. Mike and Lori have both done link lists recently, which is just sharing something we think is awesome with a few words about it. And we'll be doing longer analysis pieces when we think something really needs it. But we'll let a lot of the stuff, like every new rumor, we'll compile it. You can go to /iPhone-7, and Joe's keeping that page up to date all the time with the latest iPhone 7 rumors. But we're not doing a new post every time that happens anymore. Because I thought it just seemed like it was noise. Mm-hmm. So, for example, Apple announced yesterday that they are doing a bug bounty program, a security bounty program, and I covered it as an FAQ. So I had a chance to talk to the team at Apple who was working on it and sort of figure out how it was going to be working. And I'm super fascinated by this. Apple's not the first one to do a bounty. People have been asking for it for a long time, so it is a long time coming. But the idea is, according to them, it's getting more difficult to find bugs because they are locking things down much more. And that leads to sort of a community, a marketplace where we saw the FBI said they paid a fortune to try and get that bug to break into the iPhone 5, and hackers are always looking for bugs, and jailbreakers are looking for bugs. But there are people, there are ethical white hat researchers who try to find these vulnerabilities and share them with the companies in a responsible way so that they can be fixed, so that all of us are more secure and safer. And Apple wanted a way to sort of help them do it, to help fund them. So they're doing a program where you can get between tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars for sharing these exploits with Apple. And in a really cool twist, if you want to donate that money to charity, if you're fine and you do this just because it's a pastime for you, Apple can, at their discretion, match that donation. So if you get like $500,000 and you want to donate to charity, Apple can make it $1 million when it gets donated.
Which is awesome. It's incredible.
Which is so cool. Yeah, so I mean, there are some downsides. Well, I guess it depends how you think about it. It's invitation only, and they're starting with about a dozen people to start. And they said that's because they want to do a really high level of service. They really want to work hard with these people, and they just don't have enough people to have a large group to start with. So I don't know if it's a one-on-one thing, but they want to make sure that the researchers they're working with have really high levels of access to Apple so they can make their jobs easier. They will grow it with time, but if anybody finds an exploit, like if Georgia, figures out how to, by not updating 1,000 apps, that somehow leads to an exploit. She can share that with Apple, and they'll work with her just as though she's part of the program, and they might even invite her to join the program. So it's invitation only, but it is open. It's not exclusive.
So the only thing that I think about with that, Renee, is that a lot of people that might have an exploit, one is that the amount that Apple is paying is much less than someone like the FBI would pay for it. And the other one is that because you have to kind of be invited into the program, if someone has a really good exploit and now Apple's paying out for it, they might be even more inclined to give it in nefarious hands or to the government instead of giving it to Apple, because they're not going to get anything unless Apple chooses to change, that you have to first be registered before you can accept
you don't have to,
for a bug.
Anybody can submit a bug, and they'll start to.
After they submit a bug, it's not like you submit a bug first, and then you can be part of the program. It's not.
Well, no, you
we're
can
going to give you money right away for the first bug.
Yeah, if it's valid, they will. If it's valid, they will. But the thing that you hit on there is that they won't be paying as much as maybe a government agency, maybe a foreign agency, or a hacker group, because they might be paying in the millions.
Well, and two, one of the things that came up in my mind, and maybe this makes me a terrible person, is
yes.
I think yes. How dare you? I think that
how dare you, Georgia?
There might be some people who are like, man, I want to get There's a bug flying around in here, and it keeps bugging me.
It's a literal bug.
It's a literal bug, and it won't
Send it to Apple.
Alone.
You'll get a bounty.
$50K.
I want $50,000 for this little fly. Anyway, I think that not everybody is an awesome and good person who wants to donate to charity, and so I'm curious if there are maybe some people out there who are like, yeah, I would have loved to submit that bug to Apple, but now I've got this awkward moment where I have to tell them I want the money and I don't want to give it to charity.
But there shouldn't be that awkward moment. I think that if people do this for a living and this is the way that they make their money, they have a right to be paid for it. I think that it's very nice of Apple to say, if you have a ton of money and this is just some halftime, to give it. But no one should feel guilty, because if this is your job, you deserve to be paid for your job, and it helps out Apple and it helps out everyone else in the community that uses Apple products. So hopefully no one will feel guilt. I hope that this was just Apple saying, well, listen, we'll even give more if it's to charity because this is what we believe in, and we get a tax write-off, right, for the entire amount. Apple's doing this a little bit because of that beautiful tax write-off that they get, and they might get it for $500,000, and they probably need to tax write-off about $100 million to $500 million a year. So
billion, Georgia.
Yeah, this probably just works out for Apple if you want to give it to charity, so they'll double it because they need to anyways. But and then they get a good story that they've done good, but it's just about taxes. Let's be straight.
I get what Mike is talking about, though. Imagine if you're, just hanging out with your friends and, someone finds, a bunch of money and they're like, oh, here's a bunch of money that I found on the ground. Or you could donate it to this charity, and you're holding this bunch of money and you're like, all right, you can donate it to the charity, I guess. You don't want to be that guy who So, yes, you should be paid for your job. You should be paid for your work. I always feel that way. But internally, we're thinking, am I going to be the first person to not donate this money to charity?
It's like in the Starbucks line whenever people, because I love to do the thing where you pay for the person behind you, right? But there's always going to be the person who ends up not carrying it forward. And I feel bad for that person, because I know if I was that person where like, oh man, I actually only have $5 today. And then you're like, I can't carry it forward, I'm sorry.
But someone's just paid for your latte. You're just paying for the other guy's latte.
Yeah, that's true.
You were just a bad person in that case.
Okay, you're exploiting, you're exploiting, you're
Starbucks. If you're at Starbucks, and you can't afford to pay for the Starbucks, you should not be in Starbucks. Go to
This is
McDonald's
true.
and pay $1.
I have a story though. There was one time where I went up and I was like the second person. You know, someone paid for mine, and so then they were like, "Do you want to pay it forward?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And they're like, they looked at the screen and they looked back at me and they're like, "Are you sure you want to pay it forward?" And I said, "How much is it?" And they said, $26. And I did it because that's
No.
the time. Yes, I was so
Aw.
guilty
You did it,
about it.
Micah.
I did it. I did.
Oh no.
I get too guilty about those things. I had to. I was like, I can't say no. So
Oh, that's so horrible. That's not cool. You just pay forward the $5. You don't have to pay forward the entire amount. Be like, pay the $7 that I was gonna pay for my vanilla latte
Right.
with the extra, you know.
What was
Yeah.
funny is that Micah was the guy in line before Steve Jobs called asking for all those original iPhone
Yeah.
lattes. So sorry. Still
Anyway,
paying that off. It was all fun and games until Micah got the bill.
it was.
But I
So
like this though. I mean, I like this because we live. Apple didn't say anything about this, but we live in a time where Apple is literally at war with our own government. Well, I say our, but I mean like every government because it's no better in any other country for privacy and for security, and they're the ones putting themselves in front of us and saying, no, these devices deserve to be privileged. It's like they know so much about you. It's like a priest. It's like a spouse. It's like a doctor. They deserve confidentiality, and we want to make it so that they're locked down, and people are going to have to turn to exploits, and that means we have to up the game in preventing exploits. And I think this is a very optimistic and progressive way of doing it. Yeah, there's things about it that I think can improve, and I hope they do over time. But I really like that Apple's taking this step, because if you told me 3 years ago that Ivan Krustik, the head of software security at Apple, is going to be presenting at Black Hat and announcing a bounty program, I would have asked you which mirror universe you came from, the one from Fringe or the one from Star Trek, and I would have waited for your answer. But now I wasn't that surprised, and I think Apple understands that they're so big and the community is so big that they really need each other now. And the secrecy, they'll still keep it where it makes sense, but they'll work with people as much as they can where it makes sense as well. And I sort of like this new groove we're getting into.
Renee, why wouldn't they just open it up to everyone, though? Why have a select group of people instead of just saying anyone that has an exploit will give you money if you can prove to us, that you're doing it? I know that they don't want to get into a bidding war, which would be, Apple could probably afford a bidding war, but it could be a nightmare, especially if you're going against a government. But why wouldn't they just say, listen, if we don't know you, but you have a great exploit, come to us.
No, so they'll do that. Yeah, no. So again, I want to be really clear. They'll absolutely do that. If Georgia finds an exploit today, you can go to them and they will work with you. It's
and
just
pay me for it.
Yes, and pay you for it. They are.
Okay.
It's just that they are working continuously with a small group of researchers, and they're going to expand it. So it's sort of like your clients. Like, it would be great if you could just see every client, but they want to actually spend time with these people, and they don't have. They have a team, but it's Apple, so it's a small team. They're doing their own internal security audits, and they want to make sure that everyone they work with get a lot of attention because it's brand new and because it's just starting. So they would rather start small and maybe overdo it than spread themselves too thin and do it badly at first. And my guess is as they figure out exactly how it works, they'll just scale it as much as they can.
Now, what about the amount that they're going to give for a bug? If a bug's like $1 million, like offered $1 million, like someone's doing this for money, and a government will offer $1 million, why will Apple only offer 200,000, if I may ask?
Well, so they're very different cultures. Apple's not working with hackers; they're working with security researchers, and those are typically people who really want to do the right thing, but just sometimes lack the resources to do it. So Apple wants to give them those resources. It's not like they're not working with that guy you see in the movies with like Hugh Jackman with all the computers around him, who already probably works for the mob and is trying to find his way in.
But to keep us protected, wouldn't that be worth it?
Well, so again, it depends on how much you're going to expend and what you're going to get out of it. So I can't claim to know the ins and outs of the thing, but they're starting with this, and we'll see where it goes. And I don't think they want bidding wars, because then you end up with really bad exploits like the one the FBI got.
I wonder how this is going to affect the jailbreak community. I'm guessing, some of the positive effects for Apple is it'll make the system harder to break. But if there's an influx of people trying to secure the software system, is that going to negatively affect the jailbreak community, who is pretty
big? They were all
big
in the audience.
Apple?
They were all the ones tweeting about it early on, so I'm guessing they're informed.
Are they excited about it or upset about it?
I don't know. I mean, you'd have to look at them on Twitter because it probably varies on a case-by-case basis. But these are people from security is very important. They jailbreak it because sometimes they're frustrated that security bugs aren't fixed fast enough, and they're really savvy. And some of them have moved over from doing jailbreak to offering security test suites, for example, to look for vulnerabilities in apps. So I think it really will vary. But there was a jailbreak up until the latest update, and there probably will be again. It's again a very different group. That's a group of people who wants to find jailbreak exploits. It's different than security researchers. It's also the best thing you can do though is if you go to their Instagrams and you follow their stories, you can see all their live reactions.
The beauty of your segue, Renee. The beauty of your segue. Yes, we are talking now about our dear friends at Instagram and Facebook releasing a new feature called Instagram Stories. And if you've ever used Snapchat, then you know how to use Instagram Stories. This is an interesting thing in and of itself because a long time ago, Facebook came to Snapchat and said, "Yo, Snapchat, I'd like to buy you. Can I do that?" And Snapchat was like, "No."
Hell to the no.
And so they turned down a bunch of money, and now Snapchat's doing really well. And over the years, Facebook has done a few different apps that are quite a bit like some of the functionality in Snapchat. And now Instagram has a feature that is legit from Snapchat. But the funny thing is,
sorry, Mike, I have to ask, is it unabashedly snappy?
Oh.
That was not that joke. But the funny thing is about this, Kevin Systrom, the CEO of Instagram, or just found it. Anyway, the guy in charge of Instagram was like, "Yeah, Snapchat gets all the credit." So he is very blatant and unbothered by the fact that this is a pretty direct Snapchat, copy or clone, and I think that's fine. As he said in the article, that it was an interview, and he was like, "Look, we all create different things, and then we all take from other people, and we all are just trying to make the best thing for our own services." So Twitter invented the hashtag. Well, actually, it was scientific researchers who were using Twitter who invented the hashtag, and then Twitter adopted it from them. And Facebook invented the feed, and these different companies invented different things, and Instagram brought filters to the masses, and we all kind of borrow from each other. So yeah, Instagram now has what are called stories, and it's basically a place where you post video or photos that are just short blips into your day. So Instagram itself, of course, the news feed has become algorithmic, so you're not seeing a chronological order of photos. You're seeing what it thinks are the photos that you'd be most interested in, which ends up not being that way for me, which is annoying. But on top of that, now they've got this new feature, and the idea is that people were kind of concerned that if they posted a bunch of Instagrams in a day, they'd annoy their friends because it was clogging up their feeds or what have you. And so they would post less, or they'd take a lot of time to get that really good photo and just post that one for the day. But Instagram obviously needs people going back to their app over and over again, because if we're taking the cynical Georgia perspective, they need to make money off of people using their app a lot. So that's why they introduced this, because people are going to, in theory, pop open the app and give updates throughout the day that don't clog their friend's feed.
Yeah, so I'm so split because I had just started Snapchatting. I literally saw Micah's guide and it finally figured out. It's like some kid showing his dad how to use the VCR. I literally started using it. I figured out, he showed me how it worked, and I started using it. But I'm much more familiar with Instagram. A lot of the people that I follow are on Instagram, but I do have this Daniel Bader problem that he identified early on. It's that the people I follow there, I don't follow the same way that I do on Snapchat or on Twitter, where I'm interested in them. I follow some people just because they take beautiful pictures and I have no idea who they are. And Bader said he followed a bunch of people who just post jokes all day, and seeing them actually like their faces and them having a life was almost jarring, because that's just not what he expected. George's earlier thing, that's not what he expected from them. And it seems like it's a good idea, but it doesn't fit right, and I just have no idea which one to use now, or both.
It becomes difficult because you go to certain applications because you want certain things from them, and you don't want other things from that. So Instagram really is about images, not about video, and video of what. I actually just started Snapchat. I did. I'm on Snapchat.
You didn't
Oh,
tell
yeah.
me that.
Yeah. I wanted to tell you today.
Oh, this is the reveal.
So,
Okay.
so here I am.
I was offended there.
I'm showing, for those that are listening, I'm showing all of the different Snap chatting pictures. I am just there for the filters. I'm not following anyone. That's a crazy one.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm not following anyone. I don't want to talk to anyone here. I just love filters for it.
I'm going to immediately rush to Georgia's place after this and show her how to turn off before people start sending her stuff she doesn't want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, I don't have anyone. I'm alone.
Yeah, okay.
We'll all
just
have to guess what her username is and start sending her photos.
Do I have to accept you, or you can just like suddenly follow me and I get it?
We're gonna make sure that you're all safe.
Yeah, you can adjust that. So
I'll just delete it. If worse comes to worse, I'll delete and make.
Renee's like, no, don't let her delete it.
No, she can delete it, but I mean, the last thing I need is her going, "What? This internet thing is horrible."
But I'm just there for the filters. I only want filters. I don't want anyone to message me. I don't want to reply to anyone. Don't do it. I don't want. I see you guys looking at
Look,
me.
I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to send you messages.
But you can do the filters on Instagram now, I think is the point, Georgia. And you already have an Instagram account, which you don't use.
I do. Yes, that's true. I do as well. I like the fact that Snapchat has the different filters all the time, and every day I wake up and I'm like, oh, what's going to be? It's only been 3 days, so I'm like, oh, what new filters are there? Kind of fun. I don't want to talk with anyone about it.
And those specific ones, those ones that where they augment to your face, are called lenses, and Instagram doesn't have lenses like Snapchat.
Oh, well, then I don't want filters. I only want lenses.
Just want the lenses.
Yes, I want them mapped to me because that's fun. But that's the problem, is that like Instagram wants to be like, they see that something else is really popular and then they try to become like that. And what happens is that we end up having a convergent evolution of products. It's the same thing of every time I see the phones, they all look so very similar because they see something that is popular and then they all converge upon that. And then it ends up being Instagram is so much like Snapchat, that's so much like Facebook, and now people that wanted it because it was not like something else do not have a product that's the same. I looked at the Samsung 7, I was like, like maybe people would want a different looking phone. And
Triangle.
Divergent evolution, unfortunately, dies off as things become really popular because, every single company wants to make money. I get that. And so they say, oh, this is really popular, let's do this too. And then you end up with Renee's thing of seeing someone that he follows just for photos, and now he has stories of their lives, and he's like, you know what? That's not why I'm here.
I do not need to see Safe Solvent buying a burrito, is what I'm saying.
Look.
Okay, now he has to buy 2.
It destroys the magic.
I celebrate anyone buying a burrito. No, so one of the things I actually do want to note on that in particular is, I actually saw some complaints about this, that I loved Instagram for it doing this or doing that or what have you, and now they've added this new feature, and now I hate it. And I understand, again, change, it's hard, and
the UI isn't great for it.
Well, but that's the thing is, I think. So never mind. I probably shouldn't show that.
We don't want to see Casey list. Thank you.
There are different usernames on here. Anyway, my point is that there's a little row at the top where there are little circles, and that's where the stories are, and then the rest of it is just your feed. And so if you just look at the first photo and then scroll, you never have to pay any attention at all to Instagram stories. They're not dropped into your feed. You have to actually go and initiate it. So all it's done is add about, I'd say, 40 pixels to the top of your screen. Probably less, 30 pixels to the top of your screen that you just scroll past, and then it's as if they don't even exist. And I know that there are going to be some people who feel inclined or pressured into posting with the Instagram stories, and I understand the concern or anxiety there, but I don't know, whenever I saw those, it kind of was like, I don't think that Instagram is ruined because of this new feature. because it gives people the opportunity to do it who want to do it, but then it also gives people who don't want to do it, you can just scroll past. It's not built on stories like Snapchat is. It's not built on sending messages back and forth like Snapchat is. Instagram is still at its heart this service where you share these photos that you really care about, or in my case are just photos of my dogs, and in some cases photos of my dogs with Prisma filters.
I forgot they had direct messages. Do you ever use those? I know they introduced them, and I see videos still which they introduced, but I never use the direct messages on Instagram.
No, I don't. I've used them more now that Instagram Stories is here, because I'll see something that somebody posted and I'm like, ooh, I want to say something about that. But I didn't use it before. Actually, I take that back. I did use it, but only for two very specific purposes. One is to send my significant other hilarious Instagrams that I found, and the other is that a good friend of mine and I will send, like, as we see cute, adorable dog photos on Instagram, we'll send them to each other.
Aww.
So it's literally just for sharing dogs and jokes. But other than that, whenever the direct message thing came out, I was not interested in it. Lori, you're on Instagram, right?
I am, and I have plenty to say. Snapchat is a great, like, the Snapchat stories are great. To me, it seems more of a commercial entity. Like, in my opinion, I follow people on Snapchat that I don't know. I'm sort of the opposite of Renee. I follow strangers basically on Snapchat, and I follow my friends on Instagram.
Why do you follow strangers on Snapchat? Because they have something that's interesting.
Yeah. So if you have you looked at the story section on Snapchat yet? There's actually
no.
Tech blogs
I haven't even.
There's like tech blogs and news sites and entertainment sites that do stories. So it feels more consumer based. It doesn't feel as personal to me. I mean, I have friends on Snapchat that do stories, but there's actually a lot more stories that aren't the people that I know. And with Instagram, I like mixing it up. I like that I can see still images of what's happening with my friends throughout the day, and then if I want to, I can go up and tap their story and see what else they're doing throughout the day, and in a more personal way, I think. And I guess I can understand Renee and Micah being a little taken aback at seeing people that aren't really their friends kind of doing more of a thing, like buying burritos.
That was Daniel Bader. Mike and I are innocent in this. This was a Daniel Bader issue.
Yeah,
okay.
All on Bader.
It's all Bader, who's not here, so we get to make fun of him like crazy.
Exactly.
So because I've been part of Instagram for so long, I feel more in tune to the stories. I've already posted a story, which I don't think I've done a story yet on Snapchat at all. So I think there's the difference. I feel more comfortable with Instagram's interface.
I don't know how to do it. How do you, Michael, for those of us like me, how do you post a story to Instagram?
So it's actually very simple. You're going to open the app, and in the top left corner, you're going to see this little plus sign, and it's got like a circle around it that starts to sort of fade away into little segmented sections. But just look for the plus sign with a circle around it. You tap that button, and it pops open a camera. And the cool thing is you can also just take your finger, place it on the screen, and swipe to the right, and it's going to pop open what is just it's a camera screen, and you can either take a photo of yourself, which is what I'm going to do now, and there's that photo of me with
hat.
Awkward, yes, with hat, and then you can start to draw on it by tapping the little marker in the top right corner, or you can add text to it by tapping the little capital A and lowercase a. So I'm going to hit the little marker button, and there are 3 different tools. There's like a fine point marker, there's a thicker marker that's more of like a shading tool really and has a lot of opacity behind it, and then the last one is like this really cool neon highlight marker, and as you draw, it's a white a white marker, but it has a glow around the outside. So depending on what color you select at the bottom of the screen, you will see a different glow around the outside. There's an undo button in the top left after you've started sketching, and what I also like is that in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you can adjust the size of the marker. So that's one thing where Snapchat could take a play from the old Instagram playbook, is the adjustable sizes of the markers. So once you've written on it or done what you need to do, you just click done, and then down at the bottom in the middle there's a big check mark, and that's how you're going to send it to your Instagram feed or to your Instagram story. The button on the bottom right, which is an arrow pointing toward a flat line, lets you download the photo to your camera roll, and of course you can click cancel to not send it to your story. And that's how you do it. After that, it's going to pop up, and you can actually go in and see who has viewed your Instagram stories, how many people have viewed your Instagram stories, and if you end up wanting to delete something from your Instagram stories, you can do that all from there. And also, it lasts 24 hours, and then it disappears, just like Snapchat.
That is awesome. So let's just go around the room quickly, and I know we all talked about it, but just so that I can take a sounding. Micah, will you be posting your stories to Snapchat, to Instagram, or both going forward?
I use Instagram more already on the daily. I open it up a lot more often, so I will basically, I'll do a lot more posting to Instagram stories, and then Snapchat will supplement that because so many other people use Snapchat that I have to be familiar with that service. So yeah, mostly Instagram stories, frankly.
Understandable. Lori Gill, Instagram, Snapchat, or both?
Instagram. I will be posting Instagram stories. I don't know that I'll ever post Snapchat stories. I just never really got into it. So viewing, though, I'll continue to view Snapchat stories because there's actually some really interesting Snapchat stories outside of just looking at my friends' days. I like to watch, the entertainment sites and tech blogs that I follow.
Major key alerts, Lori?
Things like that, yes.
Georgia, will you not be posting to Instagram stories or not be posting to Snapchat stories, not more nor less?
Yeah, I'm not going to be doing either of them. I find just keeping up with my Twitter feed. Yeah, I know. I know. I'm a horrible person. I'm on Snapchat now. I'm actually on it. I thought that I only had to be on it. I didn't think I actually write to something.
Well, I'm proud of you for joining it.
Thank you. It was just the filters. It was the bedazzled filter. I couldn't. That was it.
So do you put on a filter in Snapchat and then screenshot it and then post it on Twitter? Is that how you do it?
Yeah, I haven't even posted them. I'm not going to post selfies of me with different on Twitter. No, just for me. I haven't even posted them on Twitter. I'm not going to do that. It's
my personal selfie collection.
Exactly. That's it. I don't know why. I just
not even share it with friends.
No,
I didn't even know she was on Snapchat. I mean, this is.
I would send them down to
Does your husband know you're on Snapchat?
No, he doesn't know.
Has he seen the filters?
Not yet, but I'm going to have him do it with the kids. The kids and I, that's actually why, is that someone else was on Snapchat, showed me a really cool dog filter, and we were all dogs. And I went, okay, that was enough. I'm like, let's do this. I'll have it ready for Friday. And so it was our kids, that was it. We just had so much fun doing that.
Aww.
And then we took screenshots of them. Because I'm like, I don't know, I'm just going to screenshot it, I keep it on my phone, and that's it.
You don't have to just screenshot it, you can just hit download, and it'll save it without having to screenshot.
I don't want Snapchat to have I don't know
I don't
know Snapchat's privacy yet.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
And the Holy Snap.
So I was like, I don't know. I'm like, I haven't read their I really actually read people's privacy protection and everything else.
She still hasn't finished iTunes yet. That's why it's taking her so long.
Oh, Georgia, I heart you for your security concerns.
I do. Why do you think I have not asked to be verified on Twitter? I'm like, oh, you have to have all of this information about me? I'm like, forget about it. I don't need a check.
It's so random. I mean, talking about verification on Twitter, and I loved how mutual friend of the show, Casey Liss, made my lack of Twitter verification all about him on ATP. Thanks, Casey. It's so random. There's people that I know that are barely in any. Everyone just went and filled it out, and there are people I know who are barely in any industry, don't have a lot of followers. It's not a judgment thing. It's just they're not very active on Twitter, and they got verified immediately, same day. Android Central and Phil Nickinson verified same day. Windows Central Dan Rubino rejected next day. iMore and I were in limbo, and then iMore got rejected. I'm still in limbo. It says it still doesn't know what to do with me. But like Nick Arnott, our security editor, he got verified. It's so strange that I believe I have this theory that the person who used to be in charge of App Store review is now in charge of Twitter verification.
You're probably right.
That theory.
I think you're right. Regardless, like I think it's being done by different people. I mean, that's a silly thing for me to have said. I know it's being done by different people, and I think different people are having different ideas on what actually. It seems like there's too much, I don't know, human judgment involved in the process or something. Where it almost should be like a checklist or something, and it could get brought up to different rings if it needs to be. But if you look at one person, because there was somebody who I just saw get verified the other day, and I thought, how did they get verified but
Casey?
iMore didn't? No, it wasn't Casey, although he is the go-to for that. Frankly, I'm the go-to for that, but I was just being a journalist in the right place at the right time.
You're old school verified.
I am in the before time verified.
You and Serenity, yeah, you're legit verified.
But it doesn't make sense, and so I feel like there should be, again, if you're going to go this way, there needs to be more transparency, or there need to be better instructions surrounding it, or something. And Renee, I don't know if you did do this, but if you end up having to, request again in the future, I've heard, a little birdie told me that wasn't Twitter, that including your Wikipedia page, if you have one. Oh, you did. Okay.
I included that. I included my Twist page, my Mobile Nations page. I think I had a letter from His Holiness Cerebus, the Pope of Aardvarks. I mean, I think I went all out. I did everything that I could, and it just says it's in review, and iMore was just rejected.
I don't understand that. It's so frustrating.
And I know, friend of the show,
Twitter,
Brianna Wu, was rejected and then approved, so I just don't know how it works anymore.
Maybe someone at Twitter is listening to our podcast and they're mad that we keep talking smack on them and they're purposefully denying.
We're getting Twitter backlash.
Listen here, Twitter person.
Did you apply, Lori Gill? Lori Gill, did you apply?
I did not. I am not important enough to consider myself using verification.
Oh, I think some celebrity hats are verified now on Twitter, and they have 2 followers. I mean,
celebrity hats.
Do. Yeah, Elton John has like 9 or 10 of them. It's on Rocket Hour. It's not a thing. Yeah, so I don't want to complain because Twitter verification is only useful in that if a reader or something sees it, they know that it's you, and it presents, like they sort of go, okay, I know this is Renee, I know who he is, I can follow him. Because sometimes, some of us have had parody accounts. I know iMore's had a bunch of scraper accounts that tried to make people think it was iMore, and they would just reblog our stuff to their own links and things. So it is helpful for people to know that they're actually getting the person or place that they're going to when they're on Twitter.
Agreed.
That's all. I mean, Georgia's unverifiable, so.
Yeah, I don't even know if the person we're talking to right now is Georgia.
Some people have said that Canadians just aren't getting verified, but I have no way of verifying that.
I could actually be the Georgia puppet, and you might not know.
Oh my gosh. Puppets. You've already made your puppet? Georgia, come on screen. Tell me about this puppet you've made. Okay,
so our next contest is that everyone's going to make a puppet. Lori?
Yeah, I haven't yet, but you just reminded me. I'm leaving myself a note.
I saw you look away. I knew right away when I was like,
that was scary. That got intense there for a second. It reminded me of like middle school algebra or something, where you look away and then the teacher's like, you answer this question.
Right, and then we're going to unveil them mid-end of September, so you have time to make your puppets. If anyone else wants to make puppets of us, stick figures, sock puppets, whatever it might be.
So that doesn't bother you, but Twitter having your number bothers you. Someone making a puppet of you and keeping it for all the rest of their life.
Well, I would doubt that they would keep it for the rest of their life.
Oh, I'll be sleeping with my Georgia puppet. It's gonna sit on my pillow.
That is too long for a show title.
Oh, this has gotten creepy really quick. I didn't think of that one. Okay, well.
It's too late. You put out the call.
Bitmoji awkward.
My Georgia.
Yeah, that's like the Bitmoji gropey hand guy.
Oh, stop.
That's emoji, not
Yeah,
Emoji, sorry.
He's
There
hugging
might be a
you.
Bitmoji
How
gropey guy
dare
too.
you? He's
who
a
knows?
hugging Bitmoji.
Yeah, that doesn't look
I
like
tried
hugging
to. I
anything
tried to
else.
convince
Lori,
Georgia.
have you seen? When you see that the emoji with the face and the guy with the hands out, what do you think? Yeah, right away I'm covering myself.
Grabby. Yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you.
It's creepy. I've never used it with anything
Thank
because
you.
I don't understand what
Isn't
I'm
it jazz
looking at.
hands?
Exactly.
Though? Isn't it supposed to mean jazz hands?
Again,
No.
a Unicode standard calls it the happy face with hugging hands.
Yeah, hugging what? Right?
It's
Your
Georgia
hands
versus
are like
Unicode.
here.
Yeah, anyone comes at a female with their hands like this, right away we become defensive.
Georgia, anyone comes at me with hands like that, we're gonna rumble.
Right. It's so.
Because I
when
don't do
saw
jazz.
it,
I don't
the
do jazz.
first
I'm more of a
time-
tap guy.
the first time that I saw that emoji, I went, "Whoa, what? Wait." That's it. I'm gonna tweet it out. I'm done. I want to see what
Okay.
other women. It seems like all women find this really
This
creepy
is-
and gropage,
So
and
far, it's
all
been
men are
true.
like, "What do you mean? That's
No,
not that."
I don't know. I can't speak for all men, but when I saw it, I was like, I can never send this emoji to anybody.
Okay, good. Fair enough. I'm gonna take a picture of it. That's it.
All right. So on that note, as Georgia is taking to the Twitters, where can they find you on these Twitters, Georgia?
You can find me on Twitter. It's at Georgia_Dow. You can, of course, write to me at georgia@imore.com. And if you're dealing with anxiety, depression, sleep issues, parenting, you can check out anxiety-videos.com.
Awesome. And what about you, Lori Gill?
You can find me on Twitter at Appaholic. That's APPAHOLIK. And on other social mediums at Lori Gill, LORYGIL. And
Yeah.
on iMore all the time.
You didn't switch to Lori_Gill on Twitter yet?
No, I think it was already taken. I think I tried and it was already taken, yeah.
Twitter's the worst.
Yeah.
Don't
If some-
don't
if
say
some-
that. The Twitter person's listening.
No, if they're listening, don't worry about my verification. Just help Lori get her handle. Micah, and what about you?
You can find me on all the social things: Twitter, Instagram, everything at Micah Sargent.
La-ti-da.
And of course, you can email me, micah@imo.com, and that'll take care of it.
Okay,
And if-
breaking news. The emoji that's gropey hand guy is actually missing some fingers. That's because that happens when you try to grope people.
No,
He's also
that sounds like a Georgia thing and not an Apple thing to me.
He's got
missing
those
some
red,
fingers.
rosy cheeks. Like, that's the I'm embarrassed because I'm about to grab you look, you know? Eyes closed. He's like, ah!
Georgia would jujitsu him so fast.
And that's how he lost his fingers.
So before I forget, if Serenity Caldwell is on assignment, she couldn't make it this week, but if she was here, she would tell you could find her at Settern, SETTERN. You can find me at Renee Ritchie on all the social things. You can find us at iMore. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. Leave a review, leave a rating. It helps encourage iTunes to feature us, and that just means so much. Thank you. And Georgia threatens to sometimes read your reviews out loud in dramatic fashion. Sometimes in a Christopher Walken voice. She's
Sometimes.
Or
fun
an Elmo
like
voice.
that. Yeah, an Elmo voice. That's perfect. And we have the video up, and we'll be setting up the video channel soon. I think we have a good plan for that now. So soon you'll be able to go to a destination on YouTube and see all your iMore Show videos.
Woo!
Woo! That's it for this week. You remain the absolute best audience in the world, on the internet, not just this planet, but interplanetarily. Thank you all so much. Everywhere.
Rate the show. All aliens must rate the show. If you are from another planet.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.